waved her magic in a breakout room when we had a relaunch and happened to be with Hank. And the next thing we know, we're here in this wonderful event. So thank you so much, Marina. And also thank you to Rosetta for your commitment and energy that you bring to the special interest group. Last time we started with this activity, which we all loved, so we thought, why not repeat it as a way of acknowledging the traditional owners of the lands that we're meeting on. We've got this map of traditional owners' lands, Australia and New Zealand. If you're able, can you use the annotate function here in Zoom and put the little tick on the land that you are joining us from? If this is too hard, Zoom chat is, of course, also available, and some of you have already done that. And this also gives us an opportunity to see where we're all joining from, and a couple, like a minute or so for more people to join. So welcome, and thank you for acknowledging the traditional owners of the lands that you are joining from. Wonderful. Got some people from the East Coast, from the West Coast. Let's maybe give it another second. Would you like a quick reminder how to use the annotate function?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, no. Kelly, because it looks a little bit different for me as I'm sharing, so maybe Kelly will tell you from her
Yeah,
view.
sure. So there's a little pencil button. For me, it's on the bottom left of my screen. If I click that, I get a bar. And on there, I can choose the stamp option, which looks like a tick. So if you click that, it opens another panel where you can choose a star or a heart or something like that. Or as people are doing, you can use the pencil function to actually just draw a circle or a line or a tick or anything that you wish to indicate where you are joining us from today. And it's really nice to see some people from Rotorua in New Zealand as well.
Yeah, welcome. And it's just a lovely visual way for us to see where we're joining from. The names are tiny. I wish we had a way to make it better. If you know of the way to make it better, please let us know. And we'll maybe give it a few more seconds before I pass on to Kelly. Oh, actually, no, we've got a poll. That's right. I forgot. We've got a poll to just do a little bit of a pulse check of how we feel about academic publishing before I pass on to Kelly to introduce our wonderful guests who generously donating their time to be here with us today. So maybe a few more seconds. Wonderful. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to clear the annotations now so they don't stay on the slide. Clear all drawings, and we will move on to the next, to the polls, in fact. So, here we go. Me and technology, I swear, I'm meant to be good at it. And every time something doesn't work, but oh well, that's okay. I think it's humanizing. So we will see a poll on the slide now, a poll that invites us to indicate our feelings about publishing. And I will clear annotations. That's a funny thing about annotations. They keep on going. So I will clear all drawings again. And here we go. So how do we feel about academic publishing? A quick warm-up, also quite informative, I think, for our guests today to see what we bring here in terms of our feelings about publishing.
Sorry, Olga, just to clarify for some people, because I was still in the stamp function, it was difficult for me to click on the actual answer in the poll. So if you're finding that, go back to that bar where we were looking for stamps and drawing and click on the arrow at the very top. And that will release you to be able to fill in the poll on the screen.
Thank you, Callie. Yes, technology is great, but sometimes throws some curveballs. And on my side, I can see that about 40 people so far have responded. So we'll give you a few more seconds I love how Zoom shows that number of respondents, so I know if I should wait or not wait. A very handy little feature. We're getting so close to most of us responding. I reckon it's only a couple of seconds left. Okay, most of us have responded. I assume the rest of us are multitasking or having lunch or on the phone where it may be tricky. So I'll end the poll and I will share the results. So interestingly, a big, I would like to say the majority, but 45% is not the majority, but a big number of us have reading academic literature as a part of KPI. So in some ways, isn't that interesting that actually the majority probably don't explicitly have it? So what does it say? What does it mean? An interesting point for discussion. And some of us don't have it at all as an expectation. So that's an interesting result. And when we think about academic publishing, we have a range of feelings here. And we have the other. I would love to see what the other ones. Please share in the chat. Looks like mostly it's a positive effect, but there's quite a lot of negative effect as well, including guilt, frustration, and intimidation. So thank you so much for helping us set the scene. And now I'll pass on to my lovely colleague, Kelly, to introduce our panel.
Thanks, Olga. Thanks for running all the technology as well.
Should I record from this point? Because we were discussing recording the maybe presenting part of it, but not the discussion part of it. So we all feel comfortable discussing.
The recording, so we're already recording. So we'll keep the recording going.
Okay, great.
Might,
Beautiful.
at some point, yeah, for those.
Beautiful. Oh, click to match. Wonderful.
Yeah. So thanks everyone for being here again. We are super excited that our first webinar that we're hosting as our sort of newly revised and refreshed SIG has such amazing guest speakers today. So we're really fortunate to have from the International Journal for Academic Development, 4 of the editors, co-editors who've come along today to speak to us about the journal and the publishing process. So you can see on the screen, we have the pictures of everybody. So we have Professor Mary Wright from the University of Sydney, Professor Hank Hauser from Queensland University of Technology, Dr. Eliza Bone from Swinburne University, and Dr. Tracy Zhao from Chinese University of Hong Kong. So thank you so much for being here, all of you. I hope I've pronounced your names correctly. And I will, if we go to the next slide, is that on the next slide? But we're going to just ask each of the...
Kelly, just a quick point. Unfortunately, there's 2 pictures of me in there, not one of Mary, but we'll have Mary on screen in just a moment. So that is perfectly fine.
Yes,
sorry, Mary.
Them out.
And my name's Elisa as well. So
Lisa.
That's all. That's the only thing.
Okay.
Thanks, Kelly.
Okay, I should have double-checked these things before we actually were presenting live. So yeah, thanks for clarifying, Lisa. And sorry, Mary, apologies. I had taken everyone's images from LinkedIn. I was just like stalking everybody. And then there was some like follow-up emails about, you know, which photo people preferred. And so we've obviously accidentally doubled up on one person. So we were going to ask a quick question around for our editors who are here and our presenters, just to find out, you know, how you feel about being the editor of a journal and this process in being in that particular role. So if you just want to give us a quick hi, and you can tell us introduce yourself again with your name, and we can see you on the screen, and tell us about, what are those effective factors and how do you feel about being in that publishing environment? So if I pass over to, who wants to go first? Mary, would you like to go first?
Sure, I would be happy to. The real Mary Wright. So I was aptly named because writing makes me very happy, even though that was not the intention of my parents in naming me. So it is quite invigorating to be on the IJAD editorial team. I'll pass things on to Hank.
Thanks, Mary. Same here. I like writing. not always, but most of the time. I like to be on the editorial.
Hank has frozen, perhaps. Is he frozen for everybody else? Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Sorry, Hank. Tracy, would you like to continue, and then we'll come back to Hank when he's rejoined.
Hi, yeah, maybe I join now. So while waiting for Hank, I come from Hong Kong, so I didn't ping my location on the map. It was a pity, but very happy meeting you. I've been on the team for 6 years, and it has been a wonderful learning journey and developmental experience for me. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thanks, Tracy. Lisa, would you like to go next? And then I see Hank is back again. So we'll circle back. So we'll do Lisa and then Hank.
If I can unmute myself there. Can everybody hear me? Yes. So I guess I had 2 reflections. So I'm at Swinburne, as you know. I joined IJAD as associate editor at the start of this year after sort of reading it for a few years and submitting a couple of papers. And there was 2 things I wanted to note in my reflection. I did my homework. And first of all, I think it's a really incredibly important space for us in the academic development field to have that space where we can share our work and reflections and build on our scholarly practice. And that's got an intellectual focus that's kind of beyond the institutional boundaries, you know, beyond the strategy and the compliance and so on. And secondly, on a personal note, I found it, I'm with a group of colleagues who are just incredibly passionate about the field. They've got a deep commitment to the rigor. They're really collegiate. It's just we're building this community here. And for anyone who's thinking of submitting to IJAD, and hopefully you all will by the end of this presentation, that I guarantee that we as a group also consider all submissions and manuscripts with the same kind of care and collegiality. So it's a community not just for us, but also for all of us in academic development, I think. And hopefully Hank is awake.
Can you hear me? It's funny because I didn't realize I had disappeared from your screen. So I did actually talk for a while without knowing that. But anyway, I kind of echo what Elisa's saying. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, your picture is
good.
frozen, Hank.
Good.
You want to turn off your video perhaps and then just talk to us because your picture keeps freezing, but we can hear you okay.
All right. Okay. Thanks, yeah, and I just wanted to echo what Elisa was saying. I've been with IJAD for since 2018, quite a few years now, and it's a really collegial team, and it's also everyone on the team is also very focused on being constructive and wanting people to succeed in publishing their articles. So yeah, it's really nice, and so I work on other editorial teams as well, which are sometimes slightly different, but this one is nice, very friendly.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. That was really interesting to hear your reflections from the 4 of you around, you know, the value of this process and being involved in the editorial team, as well as that community building. I really like that idea that Lisa you were speaking to. Like that speaks to me a lot around that. It shouldn't be this intimidating, awful process. Hopefully, it's more about that community and the conversations that we're having in those journals and through the journal, I guess, in the publication process. Fantastic. So we'll pass it over to you now. The whoever is sharing, you should all have access to be able to share your slides, hopefully, and to do the presentation how you have planned it. The rest of us are really excited to hear what you're going to share with us and learn a little bit more about this particular journal and the conversations, I guess, that are already happening in that space that we can be learning from. And then we'll have some question time at the end, I believe. So if people have questions, you can put them in the chat as we go, and we can have a look at the end at how much time we've got for some questions and answers as well, and maybe some microphone questions too, if need be. Okay, I'm going to mute myself and I'll pass it over to our wonderful guest speakers. Thanks again.
All right. Thank you, Kelly, and thanks, Olga, as well, and Marina for inviting us. It's very nice to be here. I will pass on to Mary, first of all. We've kind of introduced ourselves, I guess.
Yes, we have. So if you want to move past that slide, Hank,
I will
we
do.
can start with that. So again, I'm Mary Wright. I am one of the co-editors of the International Journal for Academic Development, which is the signature journal of SIG, the International Consortium for Educational Development. And so we've talked about our feelings. So enough of feelings. We'll now get on to the work of the journal. Hank's slide is a little slow to transition, but what you'll see here is the full 14-person editorial team for IJAD. So as you can see, we're quite an international group, really leaning into the name of the journal. Our co-editor team works across 4 continents. But what you see across the full team is that Australasia is quite well represented here, in terms of Australia being the most frequent country of residence. And I had the good fortune to move to the University of Sydney early this year from the US. So there's also fluidity among the editorial team. And so I'm grateful to be joined here by Hank, who is one of our more senior associate editors, as well as Elisa, a new associate editor, and Tracy as well. So moving on to the next slide, we thought we'd talk a little bit about what makes IJAD different. Occasionally, our screener, who receives manuscripts, gets articles that might be better positioned for other journals. So we thought we might take some time thinking about that so that you can get your work best positioned into the outlet will be most plugged into a good scholarly conversation. So what you'll see when you go on to the IJAD page is that we have a working definition of academic development, which in the US, we talked about it as educational development. We're using these as synonyms, or faculty or staff development. But really what we're trying to do is publish pieces that enhance the practice, theory, creativity, and quality of teaching and learning communities in higher education. So sometimes we get pieces that are very much about scholarship of teaching and learning, or about the practice of teaching and learning. And really what we're most focused on, though, is thinking about what are the implications for the work of academic development. If you take a look at the second dot point here, we're supportive of the international exchange of ideas about practice and theory of academic development. So I do want to underscore the international piece. Our team is quite international. Our readership is international, and we're looking for our manuscripts to also have that international quality as well. So does that mean that you can't write about a single context study? No, absolutely not. We do have many rich pieces that do, but we hope that you explain that context for an international readership, get out of the jargon. And we also hope that you draw implications for an international readership as well. So happy to talk more about questions if you're thinking about an article, but I did want to highlight some of those pieces there. And then I think I'm going to pass it now to one of my colleagues to talk more about submissions.
Tracy.
Hi, thank you, Mary. So thank you for the wonderful introduction. This slide follows very well what you have already said. So they are the things we are really looking for. So we say must. It's not just desirable. It's things we are eagerly and very much look forward to receiving. So we hope our submissions make explicit implications of the study for academic or educational developers. So often we get articles that with a separate session of implications, or even if it's not a separate session, it's read very clear that this is for an audience of academic or educational developers. And also we hope the manuscript is drawing on and connecting to the existing literature, hopefully an international literature, meaning a range of resources or references, not just from one particular continent or country. And we are also looking for contributions to the knowledge, understanding, and practice. That means descriptions alone are not acceptable. Finally, also the final point links very well to Mary's emphasis on speaking to an international audiences. So we hope the topic you are presenting is relevant and be of interest to wider international readers and scholars. And these are some options and also the length requirement. For articles, it's relatively shorter than some of the other journals you may be considering, 6,000 words for articles. But we have also reflections on practice and on research, each 1,000 and 1,500 words. We have book reviews up to 1,500 words. Another wonderful option, or I would say a very developmental option that some of you may not be aware of, is that we welcome you to submit some proposals up to 250 words, laying out what you are going to write. And our editor in the screening process will see whether the proposal fulfills the requirement and give you constructive feedback. So hopefully it saves you time from like writing the whole article and finding it not suitable for IJET. So please do use these developmental opportunities. That's all from me, and I think I will pass to Elisa.
Thanks so much, Tracy. So on the next slide, when we get there, Hank. So Tracy's just mentioned some of the ways in which you can submit to IJET, and as Tracy mentioned, that proposal option is wonderful for understanding more about the goals of IJET and whether or not your possible manuscript fits within those goals. But there's another way in which you can get involved in publishing in IJET, and that's through a special issue. So from time to time, on the next slide.
Is that slide up?
That's on the next slide. No, not for me, but yes, now for me. Thank you, Hank.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's all right.
I don't know what's happening
So,
with my connection.
We'll get there. From time to time, we call for special issues, and we actually have an open call right at the moment. And so these special issues are a way to bring together collections of manuscripts with similar goals and themes. They're often responsive to contemporary issues and topics. And I find it could be a good entry point, if you like, into IJET to get a better sense of what might be required and understand how your work might fit within the context. I'll talk about these special issues in a minute, but I just want to mention, as part of my kind of journey, if you like, into IJET and into becoming associate editor for IJET, was in response to a call for a special issue in 2024, which is the third one down there, and beyond academic development is institutional practice. So at the time, I was part of two working groups that were outside of my institution. So the Women in Academic Leadership group and the Mobile and Immersive Learning SIG in Ascalite. And through our practice of becoming a working group and developing together, I saw this special issue call for IJET, and I thought to myself, look, this could really be something that both of our groups could contribute to, because we were doing, we'd formed online during lockdowns, and we were really building this kind of collaborative developmental practice. And so through both of those groups, we submitted manuscripts to that special issue, and both were accepted, which was fantastic. And it gave me a great insight into the way that IJET works from an author point of view. However, not about me. So open call at the moment, navigating the future of academic development. I think Mary has put the call into the chat. Hopefully we're going to have a bit of a chat about possible things that you could submit to that. We also had trust in and through academic development as a special issue in 2025. And again, the beyond academic development as institutional practice. So you can see there's a range of ideas and themes and issues that we speak to when we pull out these special issues. So another way to get involved in IJET is to become a reviewer, and we hope this QR code still is directed to the appropriate spot. Please test it out and let us know. So becoming a reviewer, obviously you're going to accept or decline an invitation to review, submit the review before the deadline, all the usual things. But what we really want from you is to provide feedback that is constructive to authors and developmental, and to also advise us as editors in enough detail so that we can make an informed decision about whether or not to accept, reject, move on to the next round, if you like. So for more information on that, you can look at the guiding questions for authors and reviewers on the website. And as I mentioned in the little intro, it is a collaborative collegiate process. So we do encourage reviewers to give that informed feedback and that detailed feedback that we need to make that decision. And I think now Henk is going to show you a little bit of a tour of the website so that when you can get onto the website, you can see where you want to go, if you want to be a reviewer, want to submit a manuscript or a proposal. So I think that's on the next part of the presentation, although we may have lost it. No, it's back.
Yeah.
Thanks, Henk.
You can hear me, yeah?
Yes.
I'm a bit worried now because I keep talking and I'm actually frozen, but I'm not frozen currently. That's good. All right, all right. So on the IJET website, there's submit an article, which is where you'll find all the instructions. I'll just click on that for a moment. It's got a whole heap of guiding questions and manuscript types. Now, Tracy's already mentioned some of these manuscript types. And it's important to kind of keep in mind that IJET is like a community journal. It's a journal for the International Consortium of Educational Development, which means that we do value people who engage with the journal itself as well and with what has been published in the journal. Now that's not necessarily a requirement, particularly for research articles. But when we talk about reflections on practice, for example, or reflections on research, there's very much a kind of expectation, I would say, that you're kind of aware of the debates that take place within IJET. And part of the reason is that part of the criteria of what we assess the reflections on is whether it takes academic development into new directions, or if it has something innovative to say about academic development. So that's important. You will see that there's an underlined bit of 6,000 words. That is strict. I keep getting people asking me, like, how strict is that? It is strict. It includes everything. So it includes the references. So yeah, 6,000 word maximum. The same applies to reflections. They are 1,500 words. And so they are pretty strict as well. All right, I'll just go back to sharing the slides. And okay. We've got, as a community journal, we also have like an article of the year every year. And the editorial board is involved in judging these, and all the editors and associate editors of IJET are involved in judging these as well. So it goes through a pretty rigorous process. This year, for the first time ever, we've had a reflection on practice of the year as well, which is very nice, by Connor West, was the winner. And it's a good idea, like it's a good starting point to read these, to kind of get an idea of the types of articles that IJET publishes and the kind of standards, I guess, that we're looking for if you want to aim high. These are really good. And they're a joy to read as well, by the way, so yes. Okay, I think that's probably enough of us talking. I'm going to just pause there and ask if you have any questions.
Thanks, everyone. That was really, yeah, really informative, really interesting. Haven't seen any questions come up in the chat, so let us know if you have any. I have a question just to start us off, and Olga as well. I'm just wondering, what do you see as being the benefits for writing an article or a reflection in there, and then also the review process? Like, what do you sort of see as being, you know, how that can help us as academic developers? Anyone can answer.
I think academic developers are by nature reflective practitioners. I think you have to be, because you have to be adaptive to the context in which you work, which change all the time and which are very diverse. As part of that process, reading scholarly literature and reading research into what is good practice in the field and where the field is going is a huge advantage. So it sounds like a bit of a generic answer, but I really do believe that.
Wonderful. We have a question in the chat, which we'll ask first, and then I do have a question to trigger alert. It will be about generative AI, just to kind of let you think about it ahead of time. But the question is in the chat is about open access. If a co-author is at an institution that has an open access agreement with Taylor and Francis, do they need, or it just moved, to be listed as the corresponding author when the article is submitted to obtain open access options? Also, can a co-author, other than the corresponding author, submit the article?
Yeah, Tracy, thank you so much for the article. Tracy's joining us from the US, so she has stayed up very late to be a part of this conversation.
Oh, thank you, Tracy. We appreciate that.
I don't know the answer, but I'm looking for it as we talk, so I hope to put it in the chat for you by the time we sign off.
Thank you, Mary. So my trigger alert question, I guess, is to ask you about your attitude to generative AI and its role in the writing process. Maybe the journal has a position and your own personal positions. I mean, what do you see? Asking for a friend, of course, here, not that I would consider using generative AI in the academic article. So what is your position on using Gen AI?
Olga, I'm going to paste in the chat Taylor and Francis's policy. So the journal is a Taylor and Francis journal, so we subscribe to their overarching policy. And essentially what they talk about is AI cannot be an author, but it is helpful to disclose the way that AI is participating in the research and publishing process. I'll also note there's a relatively new policy shift. We haven't even talked about this as an editorial team, but I have noticed this for reviewers. Reviewers must check an attestation that they have not uploaded a manuscript to an AI tool, and that the review has not been produced with the use of AI. So that is a relatively new development as well. That is an important part of our process.
Thank you, Mary.
My colleagues want to add anything to this?
Just about the review process, Mary. I have actually had a couple of instances now, not for iJet, but for AJet, which I'm an editor for as well, where we've had reviews that were very obviously produced by ChatGPT or something, and they're awful reviews, and they're also very specific. They're very long, and they kind of give suggestions for each individual sentence in the article, which is really awful. And I don't really understand why anyone would do that, to be honest. It's better to just say, I don't have time to do a review. You don't benefit from doing a lot of reviews necessarily. So yeah. In terms of the writing, I do actually I do agree with the position of it can't be written by AI. I don't know if you can still hear me. I think I've
We can hear you.
Yes, we
but
can hear
Okay.
you.
We can
Okay.
hear you. We can't see you, Hank. It's okay.
okay.
We can hear you. Keep talking.
Or okay. But but it is tricky because it keeps kind of shifting. So you know, when we say currently, like because where the line is between what you use AI for example, to correct your grammar or to you know to improve a particular paragraph, where that line is between that and writing is not always clear. And so we have to be constantly updating how we think about this and what we consider to be appropriate or not.
Yeah.
Tracy, you probably have quite a bit to say about this as well, I would say.
I would say many journals, as far as I know, are still discussing about it. Of course, we follow our publishers' overarching policy because we are part of the publishers. How to say, we are part of them, so we have to follow that. But I think every journal is discussing about these. So updates, because I often look at this part in different journals, and I think there are often updates even within several months, given that's because AI really developing very, very quickly, and the new functions, new ways of editing or writing or proofreading emerge very quickly. So I will just keep a close eye on these changing policies.
Thank you. I remember there was recently a conversation piece about the difference between AI generated and AI enhanced. And I think those authors may have looked at guidelines of several academic journals and formulated that AI generated, where things are generated mostly by AI, or the initial idea clearly not acceptable, but AI enhanced, where maybe, as Hank mentioned, the style, some of the mechanics are improved, probably acceptable. But it's such an interesting thing to consider. What is the writing, and what should be owned by the author, and what could be enhanced, yes or no? So thank you so much for sharing your thoughts on that.
Just to add a little bit to this, because I've just seen Kelly there. Kelly and I've had interesting conversation about this as well, because what we both have noticed is that there are a lot of articles that are really quite bland that get submitted, that sort of lack a bit of a creative spark and are quite dull to read, essentially. And I'm kind of wondering, and it's because they're kind of flawless, but they seem to have a kind of generic feel to it, which is really weird. Yeah. So I don't know if that is because Gen AI tools are being used. My feeling is probably, but there's no way of really telling at this stage. But you do know when someone has written a really creative, nice piece of writing, like, yeah. I don't know if you wanted to add anything to that, Kelly.
There's a question from Kelly in the chat, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think I think you're right, Hank. It's very much there's something about it, right? But yeah, it's very hard to prove. And so yeah. And I think as someone was saying too, like you do lose the point, right? Like of engaging in the process and doing this work, and the creative writing process, I guess, is can be a little bit tedious sometimes if you're working to deadlines, but it's also really important to engage in that and to learn from that. So especially the review ones, I find really odd. Like the point for me reviewing is to actually enjoy reading it and actually, engaging again in that conversation and giving some constructive feedback. for the journal editors. So yeah, I do have a question, but I noticed Mary has your hand up. Do you want to speak first, Mary?
I wanted to take your question, Kelly, if that's okay. So you asked about hot topics, and one way to think about the answer to your question is that we've been just over the past year, been developing a new approach to our issues called themed issues. And so we have our special issues that we talked about in our slideshow, but we also have issues from 2025, and we'll be doing this in 2026 as well, that coalesce around a certain qualitative theme. And so these are based that articles are submitted through the normal process, but that we find that something coheres them. And the reason that we started moving to this approach is because our co-editors, it was difficult for us to be writing editorials around such a diverse group of articles. So we thought, why don't we try something a little bit different? And so in 2025, we had 3 themes in addition to our special issue on trust. And so our issue 2 was about mentorship. Issue 3, where Lisa took the lead on the editorial, that one has recently come out, and that's on resilience. And then our final issue, which I'm very excited about, should be coming out in about a month or so. And that's focused on measurement and scholarship in a challenging landscape. So that's 2025. In terms of 2026, we have some sense of this, although we haven't yet finalized the themes, but in terms of hot issues, interestingly, it isn't so much around AI. And that's an interesting thing to think about in terms of how we think about scholarship of academic development. But we have seen a lot of discussion around professional identity. Who are we as academic developers? How do we think of ourselves as professionalizing and as professionals? There's also a good deal of interest around thinking about curriculum, and that does touch on AI, thinking about whole curriculum approaches to work in the time of generative AI. And then the last one that is particularly dear to my heart, and I'm so pleased to see this, is thinking about catalysts. How do we serve as catalysts for institutional change? So I'm not sure if anyone would describe this as hot, but those do seem to be as current and coming up frequently in terms of the accepted submissions where we have. Hope that helps.
Yeah, fantastic. That's super interesting. And is that based on ones that, like articles that have been submitted already? Or are you sort of looking at the conversation and planning ahead to say, we want to write an article about these themes? Would you do a bit of a call out, like a special issue type call out, or is it just that you're collating themes together?
Yeah, so this is the exact opposite of a special issue where we do
Okay.
These are ones that are already submitted and accepted and in the queue. And then we're saying what binds these together in terms of how we might speak to currents in our field through these dedicated thematic issues.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. Super interesting, those topics. Yeah. Alyssa, did you want to add something?
I just wanted to jump in as well and say, just to add to what Mary was saying, that of course I oversaw the resilience, the editorial and the resilience themed issue, which of course was collected from the last couple of years of submissions, and Mary compiled those, and I worked with others members of the team, including Tracy, hi Tracy, on the editorial for that. And obviously that was speaking to some of the challenges that we're seeing from things like COVID lockdowns and disruption through technologies, but also in terms of how academic development as a field might be having a identity crisis, and also how do we build professional development for academic developers and build recognition and reward mechanisms. And I see Marina Harvey's in the audience, and that was an amazing piece by you and your team. And I think, as Mary said, all these themed issues really do speak to some of the key things that are coming out in the field as well. So yeah, there are 2 ways we can really identify hot topics, I suppose, putting a call out for special issues on specific topics, and then collating submissions as they come in on, and then coalescing around these themes that are clearly impacting the field at large. So that's all I wanted to say.
So the Question from Trisha. If the accepted articles are then themed, does it delay the publication or do they get published online and then themed an issue later?
The second, the second one,
Yeah.
I've got my mic on, so I'll just say the second option there. Yeah, they're already published online, already available, but then they become collected into a themed issue.
Wonderful. Thank you. So looking at the time, I thought I'll just do like a couple of quick announcements and then we will have an opportunity to meet each other in the breakout rooms. But this is a community for everybody and we're really hoping that you, our wonderful members, will present or facilitate a session or part of a session because we're really hoping to provide the platform for the impact opportunity, but also for us to learn from each other. So feel free to reach out to any of us or in the LinkedIn group. We'll post the link again. If you're not a part of that group, we would love to see you there. And just a quick, call to action. Please join the LinkedIn group. I hope maybe Kelly or one of my wonderful colleagues could post the link. Volunteer to present or facilitate a session, or you can nominate a talented colleague, like tap someone on the shoulder or let us know and we'll tap them on the shoulder and spread the word, invite others to join the SIG. We're hoping that this will become a supportive and informative place for academic developers. And we really believe in meeting each other in a smaller setting. And this is why for the next maybe 9 minutes, we'll go into the breakout rooms and let the Zoom gods decide where we all land. So how many of us are here? About 40 people. So we'll maybe have 10 groups, about 4 people in each one. And just feel free to stay and meet each other, maybe reflect on what you've heard today on your journey with academic publishing or anything else what may be of value to you. So hope you enjoy meeting colleagues. So I'll open the rooms now. You should get an invitation on the screen now. We'll stop recording at this stage because there's really no value in